Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our channel. I'm Dwania Peele,
And I'm Brooke Gordon.
and this is the unofficial review of the CEO Club on Prime Video. So every episode, we're in episode 3. In every episode, we are breaking down the real leadership moments, the tough decisions, the wins, the misses.
Oh, yep. And the lessons that every entrepreneur should be paying attention to.
Yes, we're not here for the surface level commentary.
No, we are here for the strategy, the mindset, and that CEO level perspective.
So if you've watched the episode, or even if you haven't yet, stay with us because we're about to unpack all of what really happened.
All right, let's get into it.
All right. So before we dive in, I just want to remind everyone, please make sure you like this video and share it with a friend and join the conversation in the chat. And if you haven't watched episodes 1 and 2, you can go back and watch them and also watch our recap of those. So, Brooke, let's dive in. Love and legacy.
Oh, first thing that jumped out for me listening to this episode, the importance of local and networking in that friendship.
Yes, definitely. So are we gonna start from the top? Because I'm trying to remember. Full disclosure, I watched this how many days ago? 4 days ago. So I remember it starting off with Talia and Lauren, right? They're in Lauren's condo in Miami.
Yeah, and we start seeing how these connections have been made, and Dee makes a really interesting sort of cameo moment where she said, yeah, we were living in Enbridge and now we're in Miami. And so you see that like there's a neighborhood connection and they've gotten to know each other in passing, and now they became friends, and as they move, they're continuing that friendship locally. And it's going to show up in a couple other places in this episode, but that one jumped off the face for me straight out the gate.
Yeah, and this episode really, you get to learn a lot about Talia.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because you really want to get into that story, and you also get to learn a lot about Winnie. So I feel like this episode is really more about those two.
Yep. I saw the same thing. And what I loved about Talia, and how many times have you and I worked with a client who's agonizing over the title that they want to call themselves. And she just starts off, I don't know about titles. I'm a singer, an entrepreneur, and just starts listing off the stuff that she does. And she's like, whatever, you figure out what you want to call me.
Yes. And, and sometimes it forces us to either do the most and be like multi-hyphenated, or it forces us to try to come up like Talia is with that perfect title that can fit maybe 90% of what we do.
Yeah, I am a singer and an entrepreneur, and that just sort of captures everything that she does. And
Yeah.
we hear that she's always talking about, what can I bring my audience? What new thing can I bring my community? There's another line that she has that just really struck me. And it has to do with sort of this defining of self. And I'm pretty sure she's talking to Lauren, and she says, we are having the best chapters.
I do, yes.
Yeah, it was like this plural statement. We are having the best chapter, sort of this idea that the best, I'm in a current chapter, or the best chapter is yet to come. She's like, no, we're doing it like now. This is all great.
Yeah. And then, we get to follow Talia going to Mexico on a promo tour. Now, I was a little confused, so please correct me, or if someone knows, let me know, because she said, she hasn't been back, but I'm assuming she's saying she hasn't been back to Mexico City, but she's been back to Mexico. I'm not sure, because if she's been promoting her brands over the years, and I recall her saying that she relies on the Latin audience. So I'm wondering, if she relies on the Latin audience, I don't know if she hasn't been back to Mexico at all, or if it's just Mexico City or just her neighborhood that she grew up in.
Yeah, I got the same, not confused, like lack of clarity, I'll say, where, she got really emotional going back to Mexico City, and it really wasn't clear. It was, Mexico City was where, and it's been 30 years. So it's deeply emotional, and there's something there that she is guarded about. It's very heavy, but it's something really important. And she talks about how she's always felt on the outside, and she's always had this feeling of loneliness, but she also has this ability to see herself from the outside.
Mhm.
And so she wears a mask and this nervousness, and while she feels uncomfortable with this nervousness, it also is exciting. And she starts talking about her outcomes in therapy, and she does this inner work, and she talks about the importance of caring for her inner child. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting to hear her with this, story with her. This is very vulnerable, clearly very vulnerable, that she's sharing with us, that there is something. She's not going to talk about what it is, but she's going to let us know she's been working through it.
And that's what, I'm going to try to predict. I haven't watched all the episodes yet, but it's a prediction and a hope that by the end of this series, we hear that she's releasing a book of some sort, because it's really hard for me to connect with the story when I still have these blank lines or blank spaces, because I can't wrap my head around relying on an audience that you aren't interacting with, and the audience is from your home. Or I shouldn't say you're interacting, but from a distance.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what happened in between. But then again, she could probably only be speaking of Mexico City, or probably only be speaking of the neighborhood she grew up in. So if anyone knows, let us know. I need that clarity, because I was really stumped on that, because I have feelings about it if I don't know the why, and they're strong feelings.
Well, and there's clearly something there. She's grown up beside a convent. The nuns have since, I'm pretty sure it was in this episode, the nuns have since acquired her home and made it into part of the chapel.
Yeah.
And there's parts of it that are identical from when she was a kid, and other parts that are completely fresh and new. And there's a real sense, you can see visibly in her, that there's a real sense of peace that she has, that this was the outcome of whatever the situation was.
I did enjoy that. I enjoyed seeing her go back to her old stomping grounds and, walking around with her childhood friend and them reminiscing together. I really enjoyed that part, because it reminded me of, I don't remember how many years ago, when I went to Jamaica and I was driving around with my uncle, and was it my uncle and my mother? Why do I think it's my uncle? Yes, with my uncle and my mother. And I haven't been by like my prep school and by one of the houses that we used to live in that was walking distance from that school in a very long time, because when I usually go there, like, we have the area where my family, like where my mother's side of the family is, and that's where we usually end up hanging out. And my school wasn't far from there, but I just never really went back around there. And I remember we were driving around and my uncle's like, oh, let's swing by your old school. I'm like, I haven't seen it in so long. So I can understand the feeling of, like when I drove by and I like got out of the car and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where it all started for me, So I really connected with that part of it, because we got to see where she started. And it was a perfect full circle moment in that she really felt, it looked like she had a sense of relief.
It did. I try to capture that with this sort of a sense of peace to whatever that situation was. And I love this story of going back. There's a real connection to roots. And, I've had one of those opportunities as well, to go back to where one of my favorite times in life, when I look back on my childhood, I lived out of the country and for a part of my high school and college. And for one of my birthdays, my spouse was like, "We're going back," and it was awesome. And the school was unlocked, and we got to go in, like, and we drove by the old house, and the steep slope where I learned how to park and drive a manual car on a steep slope. Like, you start to have all these wonderful memories, and so there's a little bit of, as you said, this is where it all started. This is where I came from. You're looking, and what you're seeing is you're remembering how it was. You're noticing what's changed to now, and it can both anchor you in the past and the present at the same time, and that can be deeply emotional moment.
Yeah. And, seeing this, and also, in between all of this, we're seeing her tap into some of her audiences. There were large scale promo events, but then there were also intimate ones where you saw her interacting with people. And I'm sure for those who have known her name for all these years, this is really exciting and they want to support her. And quite frankly, her line looks amazing. I love the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I like jotted down, must look this up.
Well, you can start to see the friend connection clearly.
Right? So yeah, it was really good getting to kind of see how Talia's story is coming together.
I would say one other piece that really stood out for me as part of her overall story, and we talked a little bit about this with Serena as well. You talk about how incredible she is as a singer, right? And we've all seen her on stage and the confidence that she exudes. And this promos, we find out, has been in the works for over a year. And here she is, it's happening. She has speaking notes.
Yeah.
Right? And two different occasions, one with her phone, which is very casual, and then the other one with like a deck of cue cards, and she comes out with speaking notes.
Yeah, yeah. And the defense of that, because she's comfortable singing, she's not comfortable speaking. And it's a whole nother ballgame because I can sing. Do I sing? I don't. Because to me, Talia and I would be the opposites. I can stand and I can speak in front of a million people and it does not faze me. However, to sing requires emotion, and I do not want to share all of that. So it really, if I have to sing ever, no, thank you.
There's also, you have a rhythmic pattern and music and lyrics, and it's not words. It's a whole piece. It's music. It's a piece.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're speaking, you're having to remember flow. And you and I are both speakers, and this is something that you don't want to memorize it, but it's still, there's a confidence that comes with having your memory device in front of you. It's like the cheat sheet in the exam. You know it, you studied for it, but it's just so comforting. You might never look at it, but knowing it's there is what part of what gives you confidence.
And that's why they have confidence monitors.
Right? But she also talks about the emotional regulation. She talks about the fact that she gets nervous. And so this idea of having the promos is where she starts giving you some clues as to the work that she's done, this internal work, where she gets caught up in the details, she gets in her own head, and then suddenly she is her own blocker from whatever the next step is.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone out there, because I definitely am going to look up the brand. If you do have anything from the brand, let us know, please. What is it? Because there are a lot of things. She's licensed. Was it her that said she licensed her?
Definitely does. I'm not sure if Talia is licensed or not.
D
for sure is licensed.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Anything else about Talia? I'm trying to remember.
I think that was one of the pieces that really stood out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to Winnie because I'm excited.
Oh, yes. Now, do you want to talk about Lauren after Winnie?
Well, let's talk about Lauren first, actually.
Because
Lauren's writing a book.
She is. I know. I love it.
Yeah, same. I think this is a good way for her to this might be how she grieves.
Well, and she starts talking about the lessons that she missed until after she lost JR,
Yeah.
and that there's guilt and anger and grief. I
Mhm.
thought that was really powerful.
Yeah.
I also, and she uses almost like I don't know if I want to call it a code word. I don't think if that's even, but she's kind of got this phrase and she talks about like, let's kill it. And I just thought that was so interesting. You know, she's talking about this upcoming project and she's like, you know, kill it, but not in a cut it, in a success. Like it's like
Yeah.
almost like the 1980s. We're gonna be wildly successful. We're gonna kill it. And I thought that was also really interesting.
Yeah, I did like like the fact that she's writing the book. I feel that it it is cathartic for her to be able to put it in that way. And maybe the let's kill it might be something that JR used to say. It would be interesting to know.
It very well could be. I also love that Serena did the book forward. And
Yes.
her name is very prominent on the cover version, the pre-cover version that we see.
Yeah. And did you hear when Serena, because everyone, two things with this whole part with Serena. I like the fact that, Serena might be the EP and she might be that face, but she set it up at the beginning so that she can step back and highlight the other women because we only saw her for probably 3 minutes in the entire episode,
If that, yeah.
if that much, right? But we were already engaged because of episodes 1 and 2. We already feel like we need to know more about these characters that she has introduced us to.
Mhm.
And the other part is Serena said that the last post that JR made before he died was about her. That one hit.
Oh, it really did. I had the same, in terms of breadth, I had the same thought. Serena opened it. She brought us in. Her name carries a lot of weight. There's a reason why she's the forward. But then she talks about not, and it's that humbleness we saw in her earlier, how honored she was to be asked.
Yeah.
And to lend her name to make sure that the book can carry this element of gravitas. There's a gravitas that comes with her name.
Yes. And you realize she said, we are going to be selling books. Let us sell these books. Like she's in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a friend. Oh.
Mm-hmm. I know it was beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Lauren. Yeah. All right. Our girl, Winnie. I know. Yes. I like I like the comedic angle sometimes that she can bring because she's so matter of fact and it's so funny. It's like, she goes to visit Dee and she's like, you live in a castle,
my favorite. Do you play setting at every meal? And Dee's like, yeah, yes, we do. I mean, she's married to Tommy Hilfiger. Of course she does. Of course she does. And Winnie, I literally says, oh, that's so luxe.
Yes.
And you're like, wait, whoa, what do you mean luxe? Like, yes, as is your life. Like it was just,
yeah. And she's like, telling herself she's moving into the next wing, like just all these things. I'm like, can I please see you on my television more? Because you say the things that some of us are thinking, but the way how you say it, it's wonderful.
Yes. Also, Dee does the same thing. Like Winnie basically invites herself to live at Dee's house, like just move in as a permanent guest. But then you see Dee do the same thing, and she's like boldly making plans and inviting herself to another event. And she's like, we're not day drinking. It's the afternoon. We're together. It's fine. And you see this, and then we're going to do these plans. And she's bold, and she's speaking plainly, and she's like it's concrete. You can tell that this will likely actually happen because one of them's going to message their EA and it's going to get into a calendar.
Definitely. And also, I like the relationship, even though there's such a big age gap between the two of them, right? I think they have such a genuine relationship because, of the history they have together with Winnie modeling for Tommy and all that. But I do also like the fact that they went to have a drink and they went to a pink room that looks like an entire bar. And, Dee is shaking up cocktails.
I know, which is great because there was a chef making their lunch earlier, as if that wasn't the lux. It was the place setting that was the lux, not the chef making their lunch. Like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And I like the scene that we got with Winnie and their son.
Yes. Sebastian?
Sebastian, yes, talking about how unique they both are in their own way, and, Winnie sharing with him that she's writing a book because she wants people to not feel weird, they should feel unique, and he's like, "Maybe I should write a book too because I am unique." I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, you should. So, again, common thread, right? We've got Lauren releasing her book. We've got Winnie working on one. Also, you and I talk often about the importance of that confident language, and you'll hear about manifesting and choosing the language that you want. And she didn't say my book is called, she said apparently it's called Simply Winnie. And so it's clearly in process. You can tell that she's not writing she's not sitting down with pen and paper and writing a book. She's got a collection of ideas and people supporting her and giving her ideas for titles. And this goes back to, for me,
Serena.
How the behind the scenes. Yeah, Serena with the ring light set up, and here you and I are at home and we sorted ourselves out. She's got a team, and here Winnie has a team. And I think that's, again, that insight into, well, how do they do it all? They're not alone.
And it's also the thought of a lot of us think that we can't afford a team. But we don't know what having a team can afford us.
You need to say that one more time.
Ooh, bars. I'm dropping bars. We often think that we cannot afford a team, but we don't know what having a team can afford us. It can give us the time. It can give us the time to work on our business. It can give us the time to work on ourselves. It can give us the time to go and have fun. There's so much that can be done if we have a team. I mean, I can tell you the simplest thing of having someone who deals with my social media has changed my life.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about being consistent. Somebody's over there being consistent for me.
And where we see it show up here is in them celebrating the breadth of each other.
Yes.
I made a note of that as well. In this moment between Dee and Winnie, they are naming the breadth that they have. We saw that with Talia. I'm a singer, an entrepreneur, I'm a designer. We're hoping she's an author, right? And here, this group, same thing. Dee's got multiple lines. Winnie's got multiple ventures. Each one of them has breadth. Are they spreading themselves too thin? Who knows? Maybe. But they're not alone. They are visionary, directing team, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And then now, like, Winnie is handling living in DC, but not being able to work in DC. She has to work in Miami or LA or Toronto or New York. And now her boyfriend, who's now her fiance, was traded to Milwaukee. And now it's another conversation of, I actually just picked up everything and moved from LA to be here. Now, do I want to live in Milwaukee and still have to do all that traveling? Because I think with this episode in particular, if you notice with everyone, they had the day of the week before every scene. So when Winnie was describing her life in a week, and it's like she has to be in 3 different cities in a week, it's wild.
It is, right? Started in Toronto, went to London, went to LA, then moved to DC. She's now flying to all the places she needs to be. Her circle of support is predominantly in Miami and New York. And now she finds out she's going to Milwaukee. And I think, aside from the fact that she is not happy about moving again, there's a couple other pieces that I see in this that I think are really helpful. And one of them is she's struggling with the idea of nourishing her career versus settling down and having a family. And she's
Yeah.
finding that pull. It's actually not the travel that's stressful.
Mhm.
It's the separation, trying to make a choice between having and being grounded and going to where the work is. She clearly loves the work,
Yeah.
and that's a real struggle for her.
Yeah. And I like the fact, though, that she kept saying that we are going to sit and have conversations about this. We're going to talk this through. So, it seems like they do have good communication.
Mhm.
So I like the fact that because I think her sister is her assistant, and then she had her sister's friend. So she has people who she trusts around her.
I correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like she mentions that she and Kyle are in marriage counsel or in counseling together.
Yes.
Yeah. And there it is again, right? Getting the full support that they need. These are people who are at elevated levels of stress, and they have people supporting that level of stress. You think
Mhm.
of Serena in sport, and she would have had a coach. You think of Lauren, she talks about how important the team is. You hear Talia, that she's been working with a therapist. She's using all the language.
Yeah.
So you start to see these pieces. And even in that team scenario, we talked about sort of like the idea of the book and the ghostwriter. Winnie outright says her partner helped capture her ideas and make them concrete.
Yeah. Yeah. So they do have a partnership in all senses. So I'm documenting all of her travels and the sacrifices, and then her sharing all of that with us. I think I remember the first episode we were talking about how can we all relate to these ladies. And, in watching subsequent episodes, we're seeing many ways in which we can relate to them because we all have to make sacrifices
Mhm.
in what we do, but we also have to decide what is most important to us. What exactly are we going to say no to? I have this conversation with a mutual friend of ours, her name starts with a G, all the time, who likes to say yes to a lot of things. And it's like, yes, say yes, but what are you saying no to in order to put that yes on your plate?
And say yes is also equally powerful. There are people who struggle to say yes.
Mhm.
Right? There are those of us, another friend in that circle, who say yes is a really important thing about like moving towards action. But then you have others where, I'm working with a woman very similar, where she struggles to say no. And we happen to be together. She was taking a phone call, and I'm watching her in real time about to agree to something that she's already managed to get let go of. And now she's like trying to insert herself, and I caught her, and you could just like see my eyes, and then she paused and she's like, I'm sure that there will be other people who will be able to help you as you move this forward. And I was like, my pride is infinite.
Oh my gosh, the lessons we learn, the lessons we learn.
But it's practice. It goes back to before. Remember was it episode 1 when we meet Winnie and she's practicing with Isabella and practicing like the photo shoot, and they're role
Yes.
playing. And this is a huge part of it. Practicing getting our mouth used to saying, like, it's not enough to be in your head and say, oh, I'm going to say no. You have to have like a scripted no looks like, and no looks like, oh, my calendar is really full at the moment. No can look like, I'm not saying no, I'm saying not now. It could look like, let me take this away and think about it before I give you an answer, right? All of that can be a gentle no, and people know that it was a no, but you didn't have to feel like you were being too assertive, too bold, or out of character for yourself.
Right, right. The practice part is really a thread that is woven through all these episodes. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Huh, oh my gosh.
And I think it goes to, and I wish I drafted down which one of them said it. I think it's Winnie, but this idea that pitching is not glamorous, and being a hyphenate, you can have it all or you can't have it all. And we think, this binary, and that perseverance is the key to success. That fear of, always D, the fear of failure doesn't go away.
Actually, the pitching part with Winnie, we did get to see and learn more about her business, because she
Mhm.
did talk about flying to London for a 1-hour meeting to be told no,
Mhm.
to come right back. So we
Mhm.
got to meet her business partner.
And we start to look at what investing in yourself looks like. How many times have we heard that phrase?
Yeah.
Right? You need to put money in to make money. And
Mhm.
with them, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, the local. What are they
Mhm.
doing? They're flying to where the person is because there's value in that face-to-face time.
Yeah, yeah.
It got me thinking, my friend, actually, while I was listening to their conversations about your events and how valuable it is to have those moments where they're not so regularly in your calendar that it's too much, but they are moments. And I think of women that I've met through Canadian small business women at those events where we knew each other online and now suddenly we're in person, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm finally like meeting you for the first time. And the first thing I always notice is you're not the height that I thought you were, because we're always at eye level, because we're always on camera, and suddenly it's like, oh, this is so cool. You are like much taller, much shorter, and it's, you're never at the same height, but you just assume that they will be because you're eye to eye. So it's,
Oh my gosh. The height part makes me laugh because that is so right.
every time since we started with virtual calls. Yeah, great.
Oh my gosh. That's episode 3.
It is love and legacy.
Well, everyone, let us know what you think about it. This is our take on the
Mhm.
CEO Club. Please make sure that you tell us what you agree with, what you disagree with. If there anything that any of the, I don't want to call them characters, but any of our lovely ladies did that you would do differently.
And whether you agree, disagree, what might you have done differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments because we are definitely reading them.
And make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss the next unofficial review.
Because boardroom conversations don't stop when the camera's out.
All right, we will see you in the next episode. Bye.